everybody, and welcome to Anyhow Anyway by Summer England. I'm Summer England, your podcast host. That's right, I am starting a podcast after, probably thousands of you have asked me to start one. And by you, I mean the people who follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Substack, Patreon. If you do not follow me there and this is the first time you're hearing my voice, hello, it's nice to meet you, sort of, over this strange platform. I'm Summer. I talk about books, writing, cozy things, smutty things. You may or may not know me from the Neighbor series on TikTok and also random stories that I tell over there, and also book takes. I do a bunch of stuff. And a lot of you like the strange clip at which I speak, and so have asked me several thousand times to start a podcast where I just talk about stuff, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about stuff. You might hear birds and thunder outside because I'm filming this in my office, and it is thundering and the birds are chirping outside, so there you go. Anyhow, anyway. Let's just get into it, shall we? Let's dive head first into smut. Because other than the Neighbor series, smut is my linchpin in social media. I love to talk about it. I love to read it. I love to ingest it. And I get a lot of questions of like, what's the best smut to read? Why did you get into reading smut? And I actually got into reading smut not because I'm particularly titillated by it. I just find it a fascinating field study. And I know that sounds so silly. I know that it does. I realize saying this out loud that I sound like a fraud. I sound like an imposter. But when I am reading Sentient Object Smut, for example, Halloween, The Pumpkin Smut by Holly Wilde, I'm not going into it and then getting my jollies, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? I'm going into it just absolutely fascinated that this is stuff that people can think of. You know what I mean? The euphemisms, the positions, the amount of ideas I could never even think of. Because if we're going on a deeper level, something you should know about me, if it isn't apparent already or if you haven't known it already, is that I am autistic. And sometimes when I present that information, people are like, what? Are you kidding? Honey, I've been masking my entire life. And also, no one has seen me when I absolutely go mute and cannot speak after a significant amount of social interaction because I get so easily overstimulated. And so when things have to do with the deed, right? When you're doing a bunch of physical stuff with other people, that is inherently overstimulating for me personally. And so, as an autistic individual, reading smut sometimes is like doing research because I sure am not going to go find some of this stuff out. Absolutely not. I will not be doing that. Even if it weren't sentient object romance. Say that it was just normal. Say that it was just spicy scenes. Half the stuff that I read about, I will never be partaking in. No, you cannot catch me there because I am overstimulated all of the time. The happiest I am is when I wake up at 5:45 in the morning, the rest of the world is asleep, I get to listen to my little music and have my little coffee and have my giant bowl of oatmeal and I paint and none of the world exists. As soon as I go outside and I start experiencing the world, I can feel my body lower in energy. And that's just the way that it is. That's just the life. I am meant to be a hag out in the woods. Thus, I read smut for research, okay? I do. I'm not some creepy little pervert. Maybe I am. But that's one of the reasons why I read smut. And for recommendations, if you are wanting to get into smut, I would just say consider what genre of book, of fiction that you like to read anyways. If you're a fantasy person, there's so much smut-based fantasy. There's so much fae. There's dragons. There's just, it runs the whole gamut. And then, is it gambit or gamut? I'm not Googling that right now. You know what I'm trying to say, okay? But if you're not a fantasy person and you like modern fiction, there's a bunch of that too. So I would just say, if you're trying to get into it, just consider what books you already read. And if you're somebody who hasn't read much at all, what kind of TV do you like to ingest? What type of visual art in any form do you like to ingest? Because go with what you already like, and then from there you can branch out into things that you might not have thought about before. You know what I mean? Like sentient object romance. Anyhow, anyway, that's on smuts. Other things that people have asked about that I thought that I would just broach in this inaugural podcast episode is what the heck has been going on with me, because I have gone off and on of taking huge social media hiatuses. So I started on social media in like 2022, and I really posted regularly through 2022 into 2023, completely changed my life. That's how I got my literary agent. I wrote a book in 2023, and I have just been sitting on information about that for what feels like years. There is stuff to come. I can't say anything about it because that's how publishing is that you get this really good news and it's like, now wait 2 years. Okay, well, I don't have object permanence. I don't have object permanence with people, least of all with success or things that I've done. I've forgotten what I've written at this point. That's neither here nor there. Where was I going with this? Oh, social media. Then I took sort of intermittent social media hiatuses between 2024 and 2025, and I would come back on, and then the world would be like, what have you been doing? So in that time, I moved a bunch. I broke up with a long-term partner. I have fallen in love. Everyone shut up. I'm not talking about that yet. Anyways. And now I just bought a house. And the house thing is probably the biggest update because it sort of came out of left field. I woke up in April, okay? And I got this overwhelming sense that I needed to buy a house. And I did. I got the pre-approval for the loan, and then I went through the entire process. I got super lucky. I found this 1940s farmhouse, and she is my light and she is my life. But let me just be totally clear with you. When I first started the house buying process, which really wasn't, I found this house within a week. When I first started the house buying process, I was so enamored with my house, the Whimsy Cottage, we will call her, because she was only an idea. You know what I mean? I could pass her on the street and I could just romanticize her. But then you become a first-time home buyer and your leak is your leak. It's not your landlord leak. You know what I mean? Your landlord leak. Wow, my grammar is exceptional. Your AC units failing. Are your AC units failing? And so I was met with all of the woes that come with being a first-time home buyer. And I didn't get really a chance to fall in love with the house because I went on so many travels. I went to Croatia, which was another huge thing. I don't have a ton to say about that trip because it was such a life-changing experience. And now it feels like another lifetime ago because sometimes when I've gone through a life-changing experience, I'm not able to talk about it. I'm like, yeah, well, I went there. It happened. I met a bunch of people and I am so floored that by telling stories on social media, I was able to go to Croatia for free. A company paid me to go to there. And now that same company is paying me to go to Ireland. I don't know about this. I don't know. I just feel very lucky. Anyhow, back to the house. So recently, this last week, I've been able to spend a ton of time in the house without traveling, and I've been able to fall in love, and it's been so cozy and lovely, and I'm painting things, and I've just fully embraced that I am born of the 90s, and my motherhood, my house, my everything sort of just looks like a kitschy house from the 90s, and nothing is more cozy to me. Because if there's one thing that we're going to talk about on this podcast, it is instilling coziness into everything that you do, from writing routines to how you read, to how you set up your space, to your morning routines. It is how I function in this world, and it is because I just prefer a cozy, okay? And I think that when I really embrace it, I'm fully able to come to my creative endeavors in a more significant way because I'm showing up more regulated and in a space where I've really aligned with the things that make me the happiest and make me feel the most inept. Oh my God, my grammar. Anyway, I'm not editing any of this out because I just don't have time to listen to myself for who knows how long I'm speaking. No. So the house has been lovely. I painted my kitchen yellow, which was a very divisive concept at first. When I was first painting it, people had opinions. My sister came over and helped me, and she posted stuff on her social media. And obviously, she doesn't have my niche, wonderful followers who support everything I do. And the people on her end of things, we'll call them the normies, were disgusted by the yellow. Mustard gas yellow is what your sister's painting her kitchen. Okay, bitch, why don't you buy a house? Why don't you circle back to me when you turn 28 and you can tell me your opinions then? Because yellow is apparently a divisive color. I'm sorry that you don't like the color of the sun. I'm sorry that you don't like the color of happiness. I'm sorry that you don't like the color of the birds that fly out of coal mines. Do you know what I'm saying? And it has always been my dream to have a yellow kitchen. It was the first room I painted in the house. Everybody told me the house when I moved in was this garish mint green color that they painted. And I wish they would have just painted it white or cream. But they painted it Tidewater by Benjamin Moore. And there's still like this giant, probably $300 worth of this color just rotting in my basement. Speaking of which, I really don't like going into my own basement. Is that crazy? I know that I live here, but that's not for me. I leave that place locked. So many things could be going wrong down there. But I won't go down there. I just don't want to do it. You know what I mean? I just am disgusted by it. And I live alone. Well, it's me and my kid. And that's just somebody else's job and it's not mine. It just isn't. I know that I own the basement, but I don't. That's somebody else's. They can deal with that. They can figure out if there's leaks and stuff. It's downstairs. It's below me. Anyhow. So I have a beautiful yellow kitchen and every single piece in that kitchen is thrifted. Every single one. And I love it so much. And you guys, I get plenty of questions about decorating. I don't know why, but I do. I get a lot of questions about decorating. And my biggest tip is just go thrifting. I so rarely get stuff from an actual store. I can't remember the last time I have gotten a piece of furniture that wasn't thrifted or from Habitat for Humanity or Goodwill or something, because they have so much character. And there is nothing that gives me more serotonin than getting a weird little eclectic piece and making it useful, because that's one thing. I don't know if it's my autism. I don't know if it's something weird inside of me. I can't just have a knickknack. The knickknack has to be multi-purpose. Everything in my house needs to be able to be used for something. I feel the exact same way about my garden, which is another cozy thing. Oh my God. I'm starting a little garden outside. It's bit by bit because I have a huge yard. I'm so lucky about it. So lucky. Everything in that garden needs to be useful. I need to be able to eat it, or it needs to be able to dry well. I do not like just ornamental flowers. I never have. I love local. I love to support my pollinators. You know what I mean? But if a flower's just there and it was just bred to look pretty, I mean, if that's not a commentary on femininity, I don't know what is, but I want useful flowers. I want useful knickknacks. I want useful thrift finds. Not shaming the people who get a little knickknack. You don't need to be crazy like I'm crazy. I'm my own flavor of crazy. No one else needs to be like this. But I'm just saying, if you're struggling to find your style, just like I said with books, if you're struggling to find your style, go thrifting. Because it's such a low stakes experience anyways. It's not curated for you either. So you're really going in and you're just vibing it out for 99 cents. And if you figure out, oh, I really don't like that piece of art, or I really don't like where this goes. Okay, that's great. That's data. That's data, queens, kings, and noble days. That's what you want. Okay. So the house has been huge. The house has taken over my life in a really good way. I am really trying to temper myself because I can already feel myself overwhelming myself, which I am want to do. I'm professional at doing that. I will set unnecessary standards for myself, create unnecessary amounts of projects for myself and deadlines, and they're all made up. They are actually all in my head. They have nothing to do with the real world. They have no bearing on my life. But suddenly my self-worth is tied to them. And I could go to therapy for it. I have gone to therapy for it. I think it's just an ingrained habit I'm going to have to get used to. And everyone in my life is going to have to get used to it, especially my house. Because every day, the longer I live here, I'm like, oh my God, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. We can take this out. I can figure out how to make an archway. I can redo the basement so I'm not scared to go down there anymore. I can take out a wall. I can figure out how to take out a wall. I don't want to paint this It's never ending. Okay? It is never ending. but it's also really fun and cozy to be able to go into your space and just fill it with color. And also, it's such a nice lesson on embracing failure. Or like, I painted my living room a made up color. That's another thing. I got a bunch of paint for free because I had a follower who found out I was moving into a house, and he works at a painting business and offered me to come in, and he gave me so much leftover Sherwin-Williams paint. None of it was like actually usable colors, just as they were. So I mixed some, which I'm a watercolor artist. I hate saying that. I sound like such a dumb, shameless plug, but I do them. I have mixed my own colors. So anyways, I mixed my own colors. And for the living room, for whatever reason, I was really feeling like I wanted this earth tone brown and kind of like a taupey situation. It just looks like shit. I don't like it. When I was painting it, all my friends were like, I don't know, but I think I'll see the vision. And they were really nice because my friends are ride or dies, which is great until I just need someone to tell me when something doesn't look good. You know what I mean? If I come out in an outfit and I ask you, does this look good? You better tell me. Okay? I'm sick of people being nice. I'm sick of you guys supporting me to the nth degree. Tell me I'm bad at something, why don't you? Okay? I don't need to go to therapy for that. Okay? I'm fine. Anyhow, anyway, so that's big stuff on the house. I worked tirelessly on my son's room because he wanted a spooky room and he really loves the color orange. And so we sort of hit middle ground, and I painted his walls cream, alabaster by Sherwin-Williams to be exact. And then the trim, I painted several different colors of orange because I got a color of orange and it just wasn't working. And then I mixed it and that didn't work out. But I was so gung-ho of, well, I've already mixed it and I don't want to keep painting this room. So I painted it and I hated it. And if that's not the story of my life, if I had just insert some better decision that I knew in the moment, but I decided not to because I'm too stubborn. I'm just too stubborn for my own good. So I got, I believe it is called Tuscan. It is number 070 from Benjamin Moore. And I got that. And after the third coat, it really started looking like bright orange trim. And I did it for my kid. And it actually is not too bad. And I just thrifted him some really cute sheets and a quilt. And I just am realizing as I'm talking out loud that everything in this house just looks 90s. You could walk into this house if you were a child of the 90s and recognize half of the stuff in here. I can't help it. I'm so nostalgic. I'm sentimental and probably romantic. I'm all of the things that I say that I'm not, but that is neither here nor there. Now, one thing I want to talk about is writing because I am a writer. This podcast is an offset technically of Substack because I do a lot of these weekly or monthly updates over on Substack, and that's where a lot of people have been asking, hey, can you add a podcast option? And so here we are. And that's a writing platform, obviously. Writing. So I finished a cozy fantasy novel in 2024, have edited it in 2025. Oh, I don't know if you heard that, but a big old bolt of thunder just happened outside. One fun fact about me is that I am really bad at checking the weather radar when I need to check it. So when I'm out on a walk, I will check it obsessively when I can do nothing about it. Like I had a flight a few weeks ago and I was obsessively checking the weather because I was worried I was going to get delayed, as if me checking the weather was going to prevent bad weather from happening. I did get delayed. It was fine. Where was I? Writing. So I am currently in the final editing round for my first cozy fantasy novel. Again, I don't have official announcements about that yet. All that in good times to come. I've written the second one. I think I'm going to change a lot about that because I wrote that before I went into edits for the first one. And so I have some changes and some big shifts that I want to make in the second one. And I'm also writing a modern romance novel about two Shakespeare professors that are vying for the same tenure track position. And that book has been not difficult for me to write, but it has been so difficult for me to find the time to write it because every single time I have sat down to write that book, something has happened. I'm like 15,000 words into it, and I only want it to be 85,000 words. I would like a shorter romance novel because some of these romance novels, why am I reading 475 pages and there's a cartoon cover on this? Riddle me that. There's no need. Okay, we need to be capping this. We need to be capping this baby at 320, 330. You know what I'm saying? Anyway. So my writing routine when I drafted my first cozy fantasy was really intense because I was also working at the time as a full-time actor, which is usually my full-time job. And I would get up at 6 a.m. and I would draft my novel, my cozy fantasy, from 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then I would go and work my other jobs, being a mom, being an actor, being a professor, the litany of other subjects that I partake in. That writing routine worked really well for me because I'm the type of person that once I have my ball rolling, I need to stay on it. And I didn't necessarily give myself a word count because I found that sometimes there were days where I was able to get 3,000 to 4,000 really good words in. And by really good, I mean they were efficient. They didn't feel wasted. Even after I went through the editing process, a lot of those stayed. And I think it was just because I was locked in. It was a part of the story that I felt really good about and knew where it started, the middle of it, and where it was going by scene, by chapter, and then the whole. And then there were other days where I wrote the same amount of time and I wrote less and they weren't as good. And even if I thought that I went into it having a really good idea of what I was going to do, sometimes that just happens. And so writing is such a practice of self-awareness. You're constantly having to step outside of yourself and assess what you think, what you feel, what you want to happen, and also being very aware of how you are projecting on the writing for the day, because in that process specifically, if I woke up feeling some type of way, writing would either be an escape from that, where I could really lock my own self out and then just embrace the creativity, or it could be an offset of me projecting my own insecurities, worries, fears, whatever, onto the work in front of me. And that is what it is. You know, I'm not here on this podcast telling you like the fix for it. I am of the mind that every creative process, one, is going to be different, but two, is probably going to follow similar patterns. And it always has for me, where I know I'm going to crash out. I know I'm going to struggle. I know it's going to be frustrating. There's going to be really beautiful moments, and there's going to be really dark moments, and there's going to be just an entire journey with every creative process, and it is part of it for me. So when I was drafting that cozy fantasy novel, I drafted it really quickly because I also had a tighter deadline. We had a bunch of editors, acquisition editors, and companies and publishers interested in that story because they had seen me post on social media and they kind of just wanted to buy sort of my name, I guess. And so we had one in particular that wanted this cozy fantasy idea that I had, and they wanted it on spec, meaning they had only seen basically the summary of it. It was not written yet. And they gave me, I think, until like March or April to get a 75% done manuscript to them. So I started drafting the end of February, and by April had that 75% of the draft, and by the end of April had the full manuscript. And a bunch of things happened in between submitting it to the company and then deciding this really wasn't a good fit. And then we went on submission, and then it went to auction. All of that to say, though, in that process, I really figured out what worked for me at the time as a writer. Now, granted, I'm such a debut everything. I didn't even know when I got my literary agent, what that entailed, because when I started posting stories on TikTok and on social media, I had several literary agents reaching out to me saying, I think you're a really good storyteller. Have you ever thought about writing a book? And a lot of them really wanted me to write a memoir about the neighbor story, which was a story component I had on TikTok during the year of 2023 and a little bit into 2024. And a lot of them I just sort of ignored because most of them felt like a cash grab of, oh, we want to take advantage of this right now. And telling that story, telling any type of story, I never wanted it to be about that. But when I met my literary agent, which I'll tell the story in full at a later time, there was just something about her that I felt it was just vibes. She slid into my DMs. The way that she presented possibly working together just aligned. And I was like, I think we could make something really potentially cool together. When I got my literary agent, I didn't even know what querying meant. And if you are a potential writer, an aspiring writer, an intrepid writer, or you have already written something, you know that querying is a huge part of the process, meaning you have written a book and now you need an agent to represent that book, and you do so by querying agents. I did not know any of the lingo. I didn't even really know what a literary agent was for. I only understood it in the sense of, I know actors have agents. I personally don't have an agent. I would be an agent's worst nightmare because I have a child and I can't just leave for an audition. One day though, I would love to be in a movie. Okay, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, we're back to it. I don't know if you can hear right now, but it is pouring rain outside and it's very cozy because I also have like a low light lamp on, and I'm tricking myself that it's fall right now, even though we're in the dead of summer. And I should like summer. My name is Summer, but I just like the fall. It's a less overstimulating time of year. School is starting. Back to writing. So I could have very well had imposter syndrome about getting the literary agent the way that I did, but I didn't. I just knew that I had a deficit in knowledge that I wanted to figure out. And so I went into writing this book and having a literary agent, not with blinders on, but I was just going in really raw. You know what I mean? No lube, absolutely nothing like that. I was just going in and hoping for the best, and it ended up working out. And I collected a lot of data about that, especially in regards to like ADHD, autism, and writing, which is another thing that we'll talk more in depth about in this particular podcast, is working with your writing partners if you are a neurodivergent person, because there's no reason to hating your own brain. So those are my major writing updates right now. And so I'm really trying to nail down a routine for my modern romance while also editing my first cozy fantasy, editing my second cozy fantasy, and then trying to write this because I really think that it's going to be good, and I'm excited to continue to get better at writing. And I don't know, I think that it's fun to write a romance that's instilled with as much because I have a Master of Fine Arts. I have a Master of Letters and a Master of Fine Arts in Shakespeare and Performance. I know. I'm a cliche nerd in literally every way possible. Every way you can think of, that's me. And so to be able to instill that along with, I guess, whatever authorial voice I already have into a modern romance, I just am excited about. What I really want to be is the Shakespearean version of Allie Hazelwood, because she's the queen of women in STEM, and I want to be women in academia featuring Shakespeare and theater. That could not go well, or it could go really well, or it could be mid, but I want to do it. And that's my big goal, is trying to nail down what that writing routine looks like. And I have just tried to accept, as I have tried to re-up, like, all right, this is the month I'm going to write it, having to let go of nailing down that routine, because if I get too addicted to an idea of a routine and it diverges, everything in my life will crash. So in May, I had this huge plan. I was going to draft the novel, my Shakespearean romance novel, and then I got my edits in for the cozy fantasy, which were a little bit delayed. I was also traveling, and then the house, I ended up closing on the house a lot sooner, and all of that diverged. And instead of just letting that happen, I just sort of felt like I was failing in a bunch of ways. And you'll hear me say a lot, like, embrace failure. It's the universe's gift to you, so now you know what to do moving forward. But I am my own worst everything. And when a doctor is like, you need to take out stressors, I'm like, I can't take out myself, doc. Okay? I am my biggest stress. It's not even close. I stress myself out so bad. And so I'm really trying not to do that with this particular writing routine. So I will keep you updated on how that's going. But it's been really nice because we're venturing into my cozy morning routine. Now that I've been at the house and I've not been traveling as much, I have started waking up even earlier than usual. I wake up at 5:45 and the morning is quiet. And although the sun is up, I wish it were dark outside. I'm obsessed with the morning being dark. I don't know why. I just think it's so special and sacred. No one is doing anything yet. And it's just, oh my God. Anyhow, I've been waking up really early and trying to get some writing done before my day starts in earnest so that I don't have, I need to write hanging over my head for the entire day. Because after like 2 p.m., if I've not sat down to write yet, I'm probably not going to unless I have a really strict deadline, because my creativity is just sort of done at that point. I can still entertain you after 2 p.m. I can still talk. I can still make a funny haha joke. But insofar as doing anything of merit that somebody should read in the future and be on bookshelves, you can't find me there. It's impossible for me to do it. I cannot under any circumstances make that work. And that just is what it is. So I've been really trying to make that morning routine nice and sacred, and also adding in that writing element without making it a pressurized point of the morning, because I really don't want my mornings to be as astringent and strict as sometimes I can make the rest of my day if I have a self-imposed project, because nobody has higher standards for myself than myself. So that's on writing. Let's get into what I've been reading. I'll give you some updates on reading. Well, I just said that. Okay. I am reading currently 3 books. Behooved by M. Stevenson, which was sent to me by my publisher. It is really good. A dude turns into a horse. I am really enjoying the story. I think the writing is quippy and fun and has elements of classic fantasy, but with not modern vernacular. But there's humor in it, but it's not particularly humorous. It really rides the line between a quick read and also feeling like, I'm like Princess Bride, but Wesley's turning into a horse. And if that's not a high compliment, I don't know what is. I'm only halfway through it. I'm assuming there's going to be some smut in it or some spice. Maybe not. Maybe not. I'll keep you updated. I've really been enjoying that book. I'm also reading Legendborn by Tracy Dion, and I'm at the very beginnings of it. I really like the book so far. I have a book club with someone whom perhaps I love anyway. And I'm a few chapters into that. We sort of have a book club every month where we read a book every month. Wow, that's the most riveting way I could have explained that. And we're on Legendborn right now. And I know it's like a 4-book series, so I'm hoping by the time that we have finished the 3rd book, the 4th book is out. I'm not trepidatious. I'm not worried. I just have been burnt by so many YA novels, and I really don't want this one to fumble the landing like I feel most YA novels do. And maybe that's a hot take, but it's been a long time. Ooh, it's thundering outside. I really hope you're getting some rain and thunder ASMR with this. I really do. I feel like YA novels often fumble the landing. I did not think Hunger Games ended well. I didn't think Divergent ended well at all. Children of Blood and Bone. There's just so many YA novels that start out so strong, and then by the end, it just feels not phoned in. And I know that Hunger Games is a hot take because plenty of people like Hunger Games. You can't make me like that last book. And I can't read Sunrise on the Reaping. I can't read any more of it. And I think I think what I have heard of the new releases of Hunger Games, it's even better, or it's a really great addition to that world. I can't read any more of it because I want to feel like I don't want to die. And I just finished a book. It's a modern romance called First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. It is so lovely. It's so lovely. It's a I think like a slanted take on Sleepless in Seattle because of the radio portion. But it has single mom representation or divorced mom representation, but the co-parenting relationship is really precious because her co-parent, this isn't a spoiler, you find this out really quickly if it's not already on the jacket cover. Her co-parent, he has a male partner. They like did it when they were 17 and then they just had a kid from it. It's such a sweet representation of a bunch of different tropes. And I really enjoyed the book. I thought it was sweet, precious. I liked it was a dual POV, and I know sometimes dual POVs can be very divisive and polarizing in the book talk community or Bookstagram or whatever, wherever you are, however you ingest your books, because especially in romance, it can feel like you're not completing an arc of someone. You're going back and forth, but I liked it. And half the time when I'm going into reading a romance novel, I'm not going into it being like, my life is about to be changed. I think Emily Henry is probably writing that line between not literary fiction, and I'm not certainly not going to say women's fiction, because fiction is fiction. I hate the delineation of it's women's fiction because it features a woman. That's neither here nor there. But Emily Henry's books often follow a singular arc, and it has features of romance, but it's also like a coming of age or coming to terms or what have you. There's a more in-depth emotional arc. For other modern romances, especially if there's humor in it, I'm not going into it being like the main character is going to be fundamentally changed in some type of way. And so dual POVs really don't bother me. This one's dual POV. I really liked it. And oddly, I enjoyed the writing more when we were in the male's perspective. I don't know why. I have no idea why. I guess the written by a woman is something that is particularly captivating for me. But that is what I've been reading. What I've been listening to, Sierra Farrell. Always. Always and forever. I also have been obsessed with Global Village Coffee House playlists on Spotify, which is basically just Norah Jones and other songs you might have heard in commercials in the early 2000s. I told you all. I'm a 90s bitch. When you walk into my house, you're like, Miss Honey lives here. Miss Honey never left Matilda. She's just still here. I dress like every mom who's died in the movies in the 90s. Blackbird is playing behind me. If you get it, you get it. I've been obsessed with listening to that in the mornings again when I'm doing my little watercolor illustrations. And as for Sierra Farrell, I liked her before she was a 4-time Grammy winner, I'll have you know. There's something about her folk country that is singularly fantastic. She reminds me a lot. I grew up listening to the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks. And I don't know what to say. If there's any type of music that explains me as a person, it's the Chicks, Sierra Farrell, and then Howard Shore. You know, Lord of the Rings. No shocker there. As far as podcasts go, I just started a podcast this week called All Things Cozy. The hosts are Matt and Jillian, and they have the perfect PBS/NPR voices I have ever heard in my life. I listened to them while I was painting because I was painting my kiddo's room. Painting is really overstimulating for me because everything is not where it's supposed to be. I have paint all over me. I don't like the texture. I don't like the smell. I like the process of it because I am changing the color of something. But my external circumstances around me really need to be a certain type of way for me to be able to enjoy painting. So I found this podcast on like a Reddit thread of favorite podcasts that people listen to. And thank God I did, because they're not super well known, but they have hundreds of episodes. And I am obsessed. I am obsessed with the way that they speak, with the way it is actually cozy. Because as a cozy connoisseur, half the shit that is branded as cozy isn't at all. It's just pretty to look at, or they're sort of talking about mitigated, diluted cozy things. Matt and Jillian are cozy people. Their values are intrinsically cozy. I want to be friends with them. I feel for the first time in my life, I'm not one who has parasocial relationships with people because I post on social media, but I'm not on it a lot because I just get bored, or I just am watching like art videos or food videos, and I would love to be friends with them. I feel like I am. I feel like we would be friends. I feel like we have a cross section. I feel like I would definitely need to tamp down how much I curse and the filthy things that I talk about. But from a vibes perspective, I think that we would get along really well. I would like to think. I would like to think so. Highly recommend for any listener who needs a cozy podcast. It gives me the same vibes of listening to Delilah in my mom's Dodge minivan. In the amount of people who don't get that reference, you know how upsetting it is for me to be in a room of people and to say, Delilah, and no one gets it? Were you not poor in the Midwest? I guess not. I guess not. You will never know what it's like to be despondent and depressed at the ripe age of 9, looking out your Dodge minivan window. Rain is sluicing down. The lights from suburbia, from Kmart's when they were still open, blaring back at you. But through the raindrops, they're muddled and yellow. And perhaps one day you might feel like them too, of a watered down mess, but somehow you make it look beautiful and Delilah comes on. Are you kidding me? Delilah comes on and then Norah Jones plays after? What? That is some special things. That's special to me. So I think that'll do it for our first podcast. I'm excited to have started this with you all, and be expecting, I'm going to try to upload weekly or bi-weekly, and we'll talk about cozy things. We'll talk about books. We'll talk about smut. We'll talk about stories. We'll talk about all the things that you want me to talk about. If you have questions, leave a comment, I suppose. But until then, stay cozy, stay smutty, and stay chaotic. Bye.